Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our 40th edition of this Sunday webinar. Today, we have a fantastic topic for the fireside chat on ethical AI in insurance. Now, insurance is a term, right, which all of us are familiar with in different form. It could be home insurance, it could be car insurance, it could be life insurance, it could be health insurance. So insurance has always been an industry built on three critical pillars: trust, risk assessment, and human responsibility. Now, today, artificial intelligence is rapidly reshaping all three of them. From underwriting and fraud detection to claim processing and customer engagement, AI is helping insurers make faster decisions, improve operational efficiency, and deliver more personalized experience. For example, what once took several days of manual claim verification can now happen within minutes using AI powered image analysis and predictive systems. Now, customers can receive instant policy recommendations as all of us are seeing, faster claim settlements, and 24/7, 24 by 7 support through intelligent virtual assistants. Clearly, the opportunity is enormous. But at the same time, the conversation is becoming far more complex. What happens when an algorithm makes a decision that a human struggle to explain? How do we ensure fairness when an AI systems are trained on imperfect historical data? Because we all know by now that AI responses will be better if those are trained with diverse set of data. The better you fit the data, you get a better response. Where should human judgment remain non-negotiable, especially in sensitive decisions involving healthcare, livelihood, and financial security? We are also seeing growing global discussions around transparency, accountability, regulatory compliance, data privacy, and the ethical boundaries of automation. In many ways, the insurance industry today stands at a very important crossroad. How do we innovate responsibly without compromising customer trust? And that's exactly why today's conversation is so timely and relevant. Now, this morning, we would explore not only the technological possibilities of AI insurance, but also the leadership mindset, the governance practices, and the ethical principles required to deploy AI responsibility at scale. Now, to help us navigate these important discussions, we are privileged to have with us an accomplished leader, Shunanda Pal, who brings deep industry experience and valuable perspectives on the intersection of the AI ethics, customer trust, and business transformation. So, with that, let's begin this engaging fireside chat on ethical AI in insurance. Now, before we go, right, let me take a moment to give an introduction of our esteemed speaker for today. Now, Shunanda Pal is an insurance industry leader at IBM India Consulting and leads the insurance practice in India. With over 25 years of experience in the industry, she is known for her strong passion for leveraging emerging technologies alongside deep domain expertise in insurance. She is passionate about harnessing cloud, data, automation, and generative AI to modernize insurance ecosystem and enhance customer experience. She specializes in delivering large-scale transformations spanning strategy, consulting, and complex program delivery, having worked with clients across North America, LATAM, UK, Europe, Australia, and Japan. An executive program graduate from IIM Bangalore, a skilled agile practitioner and trainer, and an avid technology enthusiast, Shunanda is also recognized for building high-performing teams and innovation-led competency centers that accelerate business outcome. Now, what fascinates me is her belief. She believes in true transformation happens at the intersection of technology, business vision, and human impact. When we simplify complexity to create meaningful value for our customer. Now, on a personal front, Shunanda is an avid traveler who loves exploring historical landmarks, and natural wonders around the world, often pairing her journeys with discovering authentic local cuisines and cultural food experiences. So let's start the conversation with setting the context. Now, most of us, right, have been familiar with some of the very interesting punchline that I'm going to add. Please wait whenever we go for a claim settlement, right? Could be a minor car accident claim settlement or could be any type of claim settlement. And we keep hearing these kind of statements like, please wait 7 to 10 working days for further review, where what we expect is your claim has been approved instantly, and that's the promise AI brings for the insurance. Now, AI is no longer a future concept for insurance. It's already influencing how claims are assessed, risks are priced, and customers are served. For example, like the example I have taken for a minor car accident, today customers can upload the photos through an app and receive an instant claim assessment instead of waiting days for manual inspection. Similarly, the underwriting models can analyze thousands of data points within a second to personalize premium. So my first question to our esteemed speaker for today is, AI is transforming insurance at scale, especially in claims and underwriting. So from your perspective, Shunanda, what makes AI such a powerful force in modernizing the industry today?
Hey, thanks, Shubha. Thanks for asking that question. But before I get to the answer of the question, thank you for inviting me here. It's been a pleasure. And thanks to all the audience who have joined us today on a Sunday morning, right? So as you rightly put, insurance is really at the cusp of a transformation, right? And we all know insurance is the gold mine of data. It has reached a vast volume of data, which is untapped in the insights and analytics perspective, right? And that's exactly where AI is so powerful when it comes to the insurance domain. You also gave some example of auto insurance and claims. If we had to lodge a claim in the auto, right, after an accident, we had to wait for maybe days or weeks for the claims to be processed. And that's exactly where AI and insurance can turn around things, right? So it's actually, I would say, it's solving the insurance oldest problem or tension, which is between speed and accuracy, right? And that's where AI can be absolutely powerful if we are able to utilize it in the right way, right? You talked about AI transforming insurance at scale, but right now I would, reserve my comments about the at scale part of it because we are still seeing most of the insurers globally still trying to do multiple sorts of explorations across the insurance value chain when it comes to AI implementations. You took some examples, and rightly so, on the underwriting side as well as the claim side, right? There are certain analytic reports, like I can quote some reports from BCG where I had seen that they mentioned that AI efficiency when it comes to the underwriting part can actually be improved by 36%, which is huge, right? And even on the claim side, if I look at the loss reduction part of it, the loss ratio reduction, it can actually reduce 2 to 3 points, right? Apparently, it may seem a very low number, but if I just remind you that insurance as an industry is actually a very low margin industry. And that's where these examples or the numbers that we are seeing, where AI can actually bring in the efficiency by 36% in underwriting, or say 2 to 3% efficiency in the loss ratio. These are actually massive impact that AI can provide, right? Now, of course, other than the underwriting and the claims area, there are different areas as well. Customer side being one of the definitive areas, the entire customer retention, the customer management, the customer servicing part of it, which is also getting transformed, right? So overall in the insurance value chain, if I have to look at three primary areas where the focus lies, which is definitely customer, the entire customer servicing management, underwriting, risk management, and of course, claims processing part of it, right? And as I often say, AI is actually not just a digital initiative right now. It is kind of a decision engine for the enterprises, for insurers, right? And as we know, with when we are trying to scale decisions, there will of course be a lot of risks associated with that scale, right? And there are definitely some challenges associated with that. That is where I think we should be more focusing on right now. And, you know, things are changing. So the industry is also trying to uh, keep pace with those changes and the challenges.
Absolutely. Now, since you talked about challenges, so
Mm,
let's focus on right some of the emerging challenges that we are seeing right now. Even if right as we all know that AI is coming up with immense promises, and you have given some numbers of 37, 36% of margin, where AI can definitely be a little bit of differentiator here. Now, let's talk about some of the practical challenges that we face on the ground.
mm,
The moments customer hear the decision was automatically generated and cannot be modified, the trust starts weakening. And trust is the main pillar, right, for an insurance. So while AI brings speed and efficiency, it also raises difficult questions around bias, accountability, and unintended consequences. So, for instance, if an AI model is trained mostly on urban customer data, it may unintentionally disadvantage customers from a rural or economically weaker background. Now, we have also seen situations where even organizations struggle to fully explain how certain automated decisions were made. And that brings us, I mean, to ask a very relevant question, or important question comes to our mind. At the same time, when we are seeing rising concern around AI driven decisions, what are the most critical challenges you believe the industry can no longer ignore? There may be many, but
yeah.
what are the main challenges?
Yeah. I would say I think you talked about the two critical ones already,
Hmm.
right? You talked about the underprivileged part of it, right? And you talked about also the explainability part of it.
Correct.
So in my view, the top three challenges right now that I see, the first one definitely would be the bias part of it, the bias at scale, right? Because another thing that we have to keep in mind is AI will not remove the bias, right? Historically, the data that we have seen, be it, zip code related data, or it is like prevalent all across different types. So zip code is more related when it comes to the PNC, property and casualty insurance part, but health data or, medical data, life data, all of these, there are inherent bias that has been there always in that underwriting data historically, right? Now, when we are creating the models, the AI models to run on those historical data, AI will actually amplify those biases if not taken care of. So when we are looking at scaling our AI models, we will have to look at how do we bring the fairness part of it in the model, at times creating synthetic data, removing the bias from the historical data, creating the synthetic data. This is called like fairness by awareness. So when you are aware, create the data set so that you can remove the bias before you can run on the AI models onto that, right? That's the first point that I would talk about.
Right.
The second point relates to the thing that you were pointing out about, the explainability part of it. So that's what we call as the opacity, right?
Hmm.
The black box
Correct.
problem. So if you are not able to explain why an AI does what, right? Then the customer will not be relying on your outcome, on the outcome of the AI model, right? So definitely the second challenge would be the opacity or the inexplainability part of it, right? And the third thing that I would refer at this point is more from the adoption part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still seeing insurers worldwide kind of stuck at the pilot purgatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, even now, right, in the last 3 4 years, AI has been changing very fast in the recent times with all the agentic AI and everything that has come into play. But we keep on seeing the insurers still trying out uh, in more of an explorative way, right, rather than going into at scale. So we do see insurers breaking away from that and actually deploying models in the production. So at top level, I would place these three challenges that insurers currently are facing. But, interestingly, I was seeing some reports where researchers are talking about 2026 being the year
Okay.
when the investment on AI, particularly in insurance, will increase almost threefold,
Oh my God.
right? So that's something we will have to see by the end of the year. Definitely, we'll probably come across many more examples globally. Already, we are seeing a lot of adoption, right? But when
Mm-hmm.
I talk about adoption and the challenges, we have to keep in mind that adoption is not just about the numbers, right?
Correct.
We'll have to think about responsible adoption. And like you rightly mentioned, the underlying currency that this industry runs on is trust,
Mm.
right? And we'll have to maintain that trust of the consumers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can't agree more on that. Now, you touched upon two very important, right? Apart from trust, you touched upon two very important point. One is the fairness, right? Or maybe explainability and opacity. Sometimes we call it as a little bit of transparency, right?
Mm,
Now, when customers receive responses like, our records indicate that you are not eligible for reimbursement without clarity or empathy, yet it can create the frustration and a sense of unfairness, especially for vulnerable population, because
absolutely.
not many people are well accustomed with the processes, right, or the rules, etc., etc. Maybe very novice people, right? So they get very frustrated and no one is there to explain them, right? And the fundamental breach of starts trust from there. So
Correct.
insurance fundamentally runs on trust, as you rightly said. Imagine a customer is receiving a policy rejection or a claim denial with no clear explanation
Mm,
except system has rejected. I'll come to that point again. Now, even if the outcome is technically correct, but the lack of transparency can create frustration, right, and distrust. And this becomes even more sensitive for the point I was talking about, the vulnerable people like elderly customers, low income family, and people with limited digital access. So how do issues like these, lack of transparency or disproportionate impact on vulnerable populations, affect customer trust in insurers? What is your take?
yeah. You rightly put it. So trust is the primary thing, right? And whenever a customer is affected, trust kind of erodes quietly, and then all at once it's gone, right? So, like you said, if the AI decisions are not explainable, customers won't see it as intelligence, right? They will just see it as ad hoc, arbitrary outcome,
Agree.
correct? And you talked about the vulnerable population. For
Right.
them, it is even more important
Right.
because they will think this is like discrimination at scale.
Correct.
The AI models are actually bringing in more, discrimination and not providing us justice or just impacts and outcome. Correct.
Right.
And there are actually, I was talking about earlier about the fairness through
Mm-hmm.
awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, most insurers, they use different types of proxy variables when they are not able to use the protected classes. There are different classes of data in insurance which are
Correct.
protected or cannot be used, like say ethnicity, age, gender,
Mm,
religion,
mm,
many other things like disability and things like that. These
right.
are called the protected classes, and this cannot be used in your different types of the models that you have, the algorithmic models for rating and all sorts of things, right?
Correct.
So what historically insurers have been doing is they use proxy variables like a zip code data
Mm-hmm.
is a proxy variable. But proxy variables seemingly can look at the as if it's not harmful at all. It's a neutral data.
Mm,
It is unprotected data, can be used in machine learning,
correct.
right? But what happens is AI models can actually correlate these proxy variables to understand the actual protected class data,
Mm-hmm.
right? From a zip code, there are many zip code areas, particularly in US, if we think from that as an example,
Mm,
where, there are low income group people, there are, say, the black or underprivileged people. Those are the locations where the population is very high, right? So this is basically many insurers have been actually called out for using these kind of proxy variables in AI models without bringing in the fairness part of it, right? Because if you include these kind of data in your AI model without bringing in the fairness, then it will actually call out and create a disparate impact for the marginalized groups,
perfect. Yep. Absolutely.
right? And there has been examples. One of the example that I was calling out about zip code,
Mm-hmm.
right? In low income neighborhoods, people often have the stop and go traffic more often in the low income uh, group, right? And
Right.
that impacts your telematics data, and in turn, it impacts the premium that people pay.
Correct.
So these are some of the things that the insurers need to be aware of. Another example that comes to my mind is, I was talking about disability being one of the protected class,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There has been another instance where one of the insurer actually used a safe driver AI model
Mm-hmm.
where it was found that it discriminated against uh, drivers with disabilities.
Okay.
The
Interesting.
reason being they had to, make modifications to their vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
right? To make them be able to drive that vehicle. But unknowingly, it was taken as a, out of the law modification to the vehicle, and
Right.
the premium was impacted in the safe driver model, right? So
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that we will have to be aware of when we are talking about the fairness part of it, right? And
Right.
fairness will not just be an outcome, it has to be part of the model design,
Correct. Correct.
right?
Excellent. Now, we learned about, right, the different pillars, right, of the ethical AI which might get impacted, and what all things we are trying to do, right, in order to give our customers that assurance that, right, things that I know there is no fair answer, there is no correct answer right now, but things are evolving very fast. And as you rightly said, like from the research paper, that the investment on these insurance area, right, for the AI bound research is going to be threefold, which is a very promising sign, I would say. Now let's talk about a little bit on the real world impact.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speed with transparency can feel unfair even when technically correct. Now, there
Correct.
have been real world cases where AI generated claim denials were later overturned after human
Hmm.
review, right? It's like it's similar to relying completely on GPS navigation. It may usually work well, but sometimes it can still direct you into a closed road because it lacks real world context. And then you don't have a choice. You have to rely on that nearby shop, right? Or nearby, right? People who are sitting out there, or maybe a driver or a Toto driver or an auto driver or whoever who can give you the right direction. So human review comes into picture. So
Mhm.
in healthcare insurance, a claim may appear inconsistent to an algorithm, while a human reviewer can recognize exceptional medical circumstances. So the question here is, there have been reports of extremely high reversal rates for AI based claim denials. What do these
Correct.
cases reveal about the risks of over reliance on the automated decision making?
Right, right. So yeah, absolutely, you are right. So there has been a lot of investigations. There have been lawsuits, pretty big lawsuits, mostly in the US context. There has been regulatory board scrutinies, and all of these have actually brought to light that there have been many claims which were actually there are hundreds and thousands of claims that were denied. And when actually humans reviewed those, 90% of those were overturned on appeal. Okay. You can pretty well understand
My God.
such a huge number, right? 90% of such denials, and it was in the news all over, was overturned. And these are actually clear signals. These are not just AI model errors.
Correct.
These are clear signals. There are some systemic issues,
Correct.
systemic failures, right? And to your point, like it shows these systemic failures shows, and we have to learn from those failures. That definitely the model was misaligned to the real world complexity,
Correct.
right? That was one possibility. Of course, there was human intervention or human nuances which were missing, and the governance around this AI model was definitely not there or weak,
Correct.
right? So three top things from this over reliance on the automated process, I would say, from these failures that we should learn is the model has to be aligned to the real world complexity part of it.
Agree.
Human intervention is required. Governance has to be very robust,
Right.
right? And so it is not just about AI versus human.
Right.
It is more, we should look at from an angle of unchecked AI
Mm-hmm.
versus accountable AI.
Right.
That's how I think we should look at it.
Brilliant. Now, a very interesting question is coming now. Like we talked
Mhm.
about that human intervention is required, right? But there are situations where there is a human oversight as well.
Mm. Mm.
So you often hear this message from the TPA agent that the system has rejected and there is no manual override available for this decision at this stage. Now, AI can process patterns at scale, but human judgment is still essential in emotionally sensitive or high impact decision, as you rightly put, 90%, right? A huge
Mm.
number. Now, for example, two medical claims may look similar in data, but one customer could be dealing with a rare disease or financial hardship that requires a little bit of empathy and a contextual understanding. Much like autopilot system in aviation still require pilots during critical situations.
Mm.
So where should we draw the line between the automation and the human judgment, especially in high stakes decision like medical necessity or claim approvals?
Mm. Uh, the answer actually would lie in what you mentioned, right? High stake. So I would actually take a very simple thumb rule. Higher the consequence or
Mhm.
higher the stake, higher should be the human involvement,
Wow.
right? So simple. Let's keep it very simple. That's how we should look at it because ultimately, that's the, final take, right?
Correct.
If you see that the impact or the consequence is not going to be that much,
Mm.
then you can bring in more automation.
Correct.
In other terms, what I'm trying to say is lower is the risk, automate it fully.
Correct.
There is a possibility. Do
Correct.
that.
Correct.
Moderate or higher is the risk, bring in the human intervention, the human override. The point that you were saying, manual override, not possible. That should not be a case at all.
Right.
There should always be human in the loop, right?
Correct. Correct.
So now, uh, some of the examples that you were giving, I just wanted to bring in one point here. I love the way European Union is bringing in the regulations,
Right.
right? If you see, they are going by this viewpoint
Mm.
that insurance is actually considered a high risk system,
Mm-hmm.
and which is why they have actually mandated human oversight
Oh,
in
okay.
their AI laws, right? So basically, what we are trying to say is AI can recommend, but accountability cannot be outsourced.
Very good. Great. So we learned about principles, we learned about the pillars, right? We learned about the real world impact, we learned about the human oversight. Now let's come to the designing part of it. Now, how can we implement that? So the system, so again, some common punchlines, right, regarding that. The system could not validate the supporting document submitted, or your case has been flagged by the system for additional verification, or the premium increase is based on internal risk evaluation. Now, ethical AI is not about just compliance. It starts at the design stage itself. It's like a shift left again. So similar to how buildings require strong foundation before scaling upward, AI systems need principles like what we talked about:
Mhm.
transparency, opacity, fairness, privacy, and accountability built in from the day one.
Correct.
For example, insurance may need systems that can clearly explain why a premium is increased or why a
Mm.
claim was flagged for review. So, if you have to prioritize, what are the key design principles insurers must embed to make AI systems truly ethical and customer centric?
I would talk about maybe four things here. Okay. The first one definitely would be the fairness by design,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I say fairness by design, it is not just initial stage pre-deployment testing, one-time effort. It has to be a continuous testing because models change, context change, underlying data changes. So continuous bias testing is very important, right? And an
Correct.
ongoing oversight. So fairness by design will be the first point that I would bring in from the design considerations perspective. Second is of course, you talked about explainability.
Correct.
So investing in explainability definitely will be the top two, right? Every decision uh, that is being brought out by the AI should have a explainable narrative. So building the models which are interpretable, that would be the second point,
Mm-hmm.
right? The third point again would be the human override.
Correct.
I'm talking about override, right? So there should be a safety valve. So we cannot just let the AI model run rogue. There has to be a area where the human can actually do the override as possible, right? During review process or other means. The fourth point would be on more of the data in whole, the data integrity, because like I mentioned earlier, bad data will actually amplify um, the model uh, issues as well, or the model biasness. So prioritizing the data integrity, and also there is a lot of talk around the data security, the data governance part of it, right? The privacy of the data part of it. So all of these together, I'm kind of clubbing it under the fourth point, which is related to the data governance or the data integrity, right? And now that I think of it, there should be the fifth point, which should be around more to do with the outcome, the orientation of the outcome, because people often run after efficiency, right? Rather than optimizing for efficiency, I would say during design phase, you should optimize for customer impact. So outcome orientation. So these will be the five top priority things that I would suggest whenever someone is trying to scale their uh, models for insurance.
Excellent. Now, right, earlier I remember in one of the answer you talked about a little bit of governance structure, right?
Mm, mm.
So nothing can happen unless we get a leadership blessing, right, or a
Oh, of
proper
course.
governance structure.
Mm,
Now, responsible AI cannot remain only a technology decision. It has to become a leadership agenda also. There should be a strong leadership focus. Much like financial governance or cybersecurity, AI governance requires executive ownership, clear accountability, and cross functional collaboration. For instance, if an AI model unintentionally discriminates against a customer segment, the impact is not only technical, but it affects the brand reputation, compliance, and the customer trust.
right.
So, from a CXO perspective, what governance structures and leadership actions are critical to ensure AI is deployed responsibility at scale?
Mm. I will come to that. I think, Shubho, there is a hand raised. Is that for a question? Should we take the
Uh,
question after this?
yes, yes. No, no. We will. Those who have raised the question, I'm sure, like all of you are having questions. Just keep it for next 10 minutes. We'll definitely have a dedicated Q&A. Right. So
Sure,
thank you so
sure.
much.
So, yeah, you rightly pointed out. So, this has to come top to bottom,
Hmm.
right? Unless you have the blessings, as I would put it, from the leadership, right? It becomes very difficult.
Correct.
So responsible AI nowadays, it's not just the IT head or the CIO's responsibility, right? So it is more of I would say, a boardroom imperative currently, right? And in many of the conversations, it is coming up, and we are seeing it from our IBM has a research group, right?
Mm.
IBM Business Value Group. Through the reports, we have seen that enterprise wide governance and alignment with the customer's expectation. These are very, very important things that are called out in our discussions in the IBV's discussion with the CXOs worldwide, right? So now what do I see talking to the clients? When many of our leading insurers, I'm seeing that they have actually set up an AI ethics board,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's kind of the governance board.
Mm.
They will come up with the rules, regulations, governance part of it. They're also including this as part of their enterprise risk management framework, ERM framework.
Right.
Most companies, large companies will have ERM frameworks, right? And in the last few years, they are actually revising those ERM frameworks to bring in the AI risk part into that ERM framework, right? And the third thing, which is, I would say, most important thing, is cultural transformation within the organization,
Correct.
right? Because bringing in responsible AI is not just about the coding part of it,
Agree.
not just about improving the AI models part of it. It is also about bringing in the cultural changes within the teams who are
Mm-hmm.
working on it day in and day out, right? And definitely from the leadership side, the global regulations are changing. So being aware of those regulations, the global and the local regulations, and complying to those becomes extremely important,
Agree.
right?
Right. Brilliant. Now, since you have brought that regulatory right compliance, let's focus on that area. Now, again, many time we keep hearing these kind of statements. This is as per policy terms and automated underwriting guidelines. Now, globally,
Mhm.
the regulatory environment for AI is evolving rapidly, as you already touched
True.
upon. And also, you talked about the European Union. So, the European Union is moving towards a stricter AI governance, while other regions are taking more decentralized approaches.
Correct.
Now, for multinational insurance, this can be challenging. For example, a customer data practice acceptable in one country may require additional compliance controls in another country.
Hmm.
So it can feel like driving across countries where traffic rules change at every border. So
Absolutely.
globally, we see a very different approaches from the EU's AI Act to the US state by state model. So how should insurers navigate this complex and evolving regulatory environment?
Right. It is absolutely, and people are actually finding it difficult because it's a very, very complex, very, very fast evolving, and like you mentioned, fragmented,
Hmm.
right, scenario currently. Because if you see globally, EU, European Union is probably the most comprehensive one, right?
Correct.
They have taken a very comprehensive, restrictive take on overall data governance through the GDPR as well as AI regulations,
Right.
right? And then there comes the US part of it, where, like you mentioned, it is statewide,
Hmm.
different, laws and rules and guidance are provided, right? EU is more like a rule, mandated rule, but everywhere else it's more like a guidance. Like even
Okay.
in US, if you see the National Association NAIC, right, that governs the
Hmm.
insurance committee. So they have actually come up with some guidelines, I would say, but it is not a binding law.
Hmm.
So each state, like California, Colorado, they have different rules that they are coming up with. California kind of is leading the pack, I would say,
Okay.
from coming up with the different rules on transparency, on there are some biometric related rules also. Illinois, I think, is one state which is coming up with that kind of rules. So the point is, it is fragmented in US. Similarly, if I say see in UK kind of is going with they have two existing financial regulation laws. They are kind of going with that. FNC and PRC, there are two regulatory bodies. They are more taking an approach towards pro innovation, not that restrictive. And if I look at India and Asia Pac region in
Hmm.
general, we have a more pro-innovative, innovation-friendly kind of guidelines, right?
Hmm.
While they are bounded by a lot of principles, even IRDIA has come up with a lot of rules on financial inclusivity, and
Right.
there is a lot of things here happening in India actually from innovation standpoint. Crop insurance, parametric insurance guided
Mm.
by satellite data and all that for farmers and all that. So the point is, yes, the rules are fragmented
Mm.
globally, and particularly it poses a issue for the global insurers, right? Multinational insurers. And a stance that many of the insurers, the global players, are taking that I see is
Hmm.
they are actually building the models from the most restrictive model perspective, like
Okay.
the EU laws.
Hmm.
So they are kind of keeping it to the highest standard
Mm.
and then adapting downwards to the local, requirements. So basically, it's because regulation actually is not just about the mandate, it is also becoming a differentiator,
Hmm.
right? So you have to kind of balance between how much of innovation that you can bring in and how much of compliance that you will bring. So to your point, if I have to just keep it crisp, I would say design globally, comply locally.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, that brings us to the right last question for our conversation before we go to the fireside chat. Now, we learned a lot about right governance, right other things, right? But you made a very important point in the very beginning called innovation. So we just
Mm-hmm.
learned about the compliance and the governance as well. Now, as we know that now these days, most of the customer care or any customer service things are routed to the chatbot.
Correct.
And till the point you are giving or asking them the generic points, right, they are fine. But once you get to the very specific question about your problem, the chatbot does not understand your concern and they keep on giving the same message. Okay, I don't understand your question.
Mm,
Can you
mm,
rephrase? Right?
mm,
And this is nothing wrong on that part because
mm.
those have not been fed with that type of unique
Correct.
situations. Correct?
Correct.
So many organizations worry that a stronger governance may slow innovation while others fear moving too fast
Mm,
without a guardrail. Now,
mm.
it's similar to launching a new financial product. Speed matters, but so do customer safety and the trust. Now, for
Correct.
example, deploying an AI chatbot quickly may improve the efficiency, right? But if it is mishandling the sensitive lanes conversation, like I said, the reputational damage can outweigh the benefits.
Correct.
So, how can organizations strike the right balance between driving AI innovation and meeting increasing regulatory and ethical expectations?
Yeah. So, you talked about the chatbot, right? The chatbot thing has been in place for most of the insurers,
Correct.
right? 90%, I would say, because traditionally the chatbot has been more rules-based,
Hmm.
deterministic, right? And which is where, uh, if it is kind of outside of the rule book question, it could not answer,
Correct.
right? So that was before that was the safest part of implementing the customer facing chatbot. Things have improved to agent based chatbot where, it is given the context, it is answering
Hmm.
to the customers need, right? Things are also improving step by step as and when we see the multi-agentic implementation
Correct.
is being brought about, right? But I'm not going into the technology part of it, the implementation part of it. To your question about how do we bring in the regulatory and the innovation, right? Now, both of these are required. So I would say what I'm seeing in the markets and with the insurers is leaders are actually not choosing between one or the other. They
Hmm.
have to engineer both,
Correct.
right? So they will have to find the use cases and focus on those use cases which have larger customer impact, right? And then also bringing in the compliance towards the uh, at the beginning of the AI model, right? So a shift left compliance is what I
Hmm.
would say. Shift left compliance, deploy AI with that governance part. And that's how we will actually be able to accelerate at scale.
Hmm.
Compliance done right will be actually able to give that scale to the insurers that they are striving for, right?
Brilliant.
And that will also, I believe, would kind of build the trust, not just with the customers, but also with the regulatory bodies.
Right. Okay, good. So a lot of serious discussions, right, happened. So now let's get into a little bit of right fun part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So a rapid fire round. So one word that defines the ethical AI in insurance.
Trust,
Okay. AI in claims, efficiency or risk, what comes first?
risk first.
Should AI over deny a claim without human review? Yes or no?
No,
Okay. Biggest red flag in AI system, bias, opacity, or automation, over automation.
opacity,
Okay. What matters more, accuracy or explainability?
explainability. Accuracy will follow.
Of course. One regulation every insurers must take seriously today.
I would go with the EU Act, the
Mhm.
AI Act, and the GDPR.
Okay. AI should optimize for cost or care.
Care, cost will follow.
What's more important, innovation speed or governing governance rigor?
Governance rigor.
One capability insurers must build for responsible AI adoption.
Model governance and continuous monitoring.
Okay. Last one. In one line, what does trustworthy AI mean to you?
Trustworthy AI, AI that is fair, accountable, and aligned with the human outcomes.
Thank you so much. Now, thanks, Shunanda, for this wonderful insight for the last almost 50 minutes. Now, I would open it up for the audience. I'm sure like there are a lot of questions here. Feel free to ask your questions.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. Hi, Sunanda. The first question I have, it has two parts to it. Like, as insurers move towards an autonomous AI-assisted underwriting and claim management, as you have said, how do you see the industry balancing predictive efficiency with aspects like moral accountability, especially in edge case scenarios where statistically optimized AI decision may conflict with the human welfare outcome? And the second part to this question is, do you believe that future AI systems should incorporate explicit ethical constraints or maybe uncertainty aware escalation mechanisms before like making any high impact sort of a decision?
So there are two questions I believe, Binayak, you had,
Mhm.
right? One was related to the model part of it, whether we should bring in the ethics at the beginning itself, or how should insurers bring that about, right? So now this is something we were discussing earlier as well. So like I mentioned, shift left. So it cannot be brought in as an afterthought.
Mhm.
You have to build in that ethical part of it into your model, right? Another thing, if I that I mentioned is about fairness through awareness, right? Insurers are already aware, and there has been a lot of research that has been done on data. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, insurance is all about it's a gold mine of data. There
Right.
is a lot of data, and with AI, we now have the possibility to bring out the insights from that data, right? And we know exactly where the biases are. So wherever there is bias, don't feed those data, even though it is your historical factual based data. Don't feed those data into your AI models. That's my point. Because that way, what would happen is, there are situations where we talked about a low income group zip code areas, right? There have been biases found for, of course, male and female drivers, right?
Right.
So wherever you have this kind of biases that you have been able to already identify, create
Mhm.
your data synthetically, basing the data on your production data or the factual data. That would be my answer, right? Did I answer both the questions or
Yeah, in a way, yes,
only?
yes. You answered both of them at one shot. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay. Mm.
Thank
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, hi Shunanda,
Yeah,
Mitra
go
here.
ahead.
So my query is like as you were saying, the trust plays a pivotal role throughout the process. So if an AI system makes a technically correct but ethically questionable underwriting or claims decision, who would ultimately be held accountable? The insurer, the developers, or the algorithm itself?
Yeah, this reminds me of a case that happened with Canada, Air Canada, right? If you recall, right? Yeah, I think it was an year on 1.5 years back when there was a chatbot which kind of gave some rowdy answers to the customer, and then Air Canada mentioned that this is the model is accountable. We are not. Hands raised, right? But we
Okay.
can't do that. The
Yeah.
company is creating the model. So
Mhm.
ultimately, to your question, the insurer is to be held accountable for the model. Like I was also mentioning earlier, right? So AI can recommend an output or some, outcome, but the accountability cannot be outsourced. Accountability lies with the insurer, and which is where the insurers are extremely cautious. And this is where one of the reasons why we are not still seeing the scale at operation, right? Because you cannot just say it's a technical issue. It is never a technical error. You are aware of what the outcome could be. And that is where, the compliance part of it has to be weaved in continuously in the cycle. Because as we have seen and as we know that AI models needs continuous training, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, there can be a situation that it can hallucinate, or there can be biases that gradually sips into the model.
Great.
Thank you.
Rajiv, you have a question. Go ahead. Rajiv, you're on mute if you're talking. Rajiv, we are not able to hear you. You are on mute. Yeah.
Are you able
Yes.
to hear now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. I
now we are able to hear you, Raju.
was on the mute. Hey, hi Shunanda. Yeah, I had a question like, uh, how do you think that all the insurers should be redesigning? I mean, we have talked about it, our governance and accountability, right, in the operating models, because we are going from uh, configurable policy workflows to AI assisted uh, composition
Hmm.
kind of the workflows, right? I mean, this was also the talk of the town in the recently concluded the Guide Work Dev Summit in
Mm-hmm.
Bangalore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think that, because, so we have semi-autonomous decision or orchestration across underwriting, so servicing, renewals,
Correct.
and claims, along with multiple AI agents also interacting
Mm-hmm.
with the core administrative, the policy
Mm-hmm.
administration system. So I mean, so what would be this your take in this? That how would the insurers build all these things together so that so that the composition is good enough to tackle the new world, you know, so, uh, policy orchestration. And,
Just to clarify that I got the question right, Rajiv, you are saying that how much of automation or how much of AI agents we should bring in the entire insurance value chain? Is that your question?
right.
Because, it entirely depends on the insurer's risk-taking part as well, right? Like we were discussing at the beginning, when we look at the possibilities of AI transforming different areas of the entire insurance value chain, we are seeing possibilities in um, starting from right up front at the marketing, branding, the customer servicing part of it, right? Up till the administration part of it, the policy administration part of it, the claims administration and management part of it, and also the underwriting and the risk assessment. I think that's a very critical portion. So all of these areas do have the potential of it. But as and when we mature, both from bringing in the right data insights, bringing in the correct models which are built on trust and the governance, the stable outputs. Based on all of these, actually, we will be seeing more and more automation in that entire chain, right? But will that be completely, fully automated without any human intervention? I don't think so, because that is where the human oversight and the human override is extremely important. So while we are bringing in the automation, there will be varying percentage of automation that you will see, and the modes are also changing, like we were saying, rule driven chatbots to single agent chatbot to multi-agent autonomous implementation that will evolve. But the human will never be out of the loop. Hope
Excellent.
that answers, Rajiv, your question.
Yep, thank you.
Dola, you have a question? After that, I'll go to Binayak for the last one.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks, Shunanda, for that very insightful discussion. It was really wonderful.
Thanks,
I mean,
Dola.
obviously, everyone is very excited about this AI wrapper, right? And this is irrespective of any industry, right? But
True.
but what is happening? We know that the engine underneath is kind of a web of almost 30-year-old legacy systems consisting of still a lot of siloed data. So in
Very
your
true.
experience, and that we are facing almost in every industry, and I myself into the healthcare life sciences, we are facing similar
Hmm.
challenges here
Hmm.
as well. So, in my question is, in your experience, is the biggest hurdle to AI adoption actually the technology itself, or is it the massive data debt and the organizational inertia that that needs to be cleared out first? And we really cannot break the system. So, how really would you move fast without actually breaking such systems which are very critical to the business?
True, true. You bring in a absolutely, fascinating point, which has been in discussion for all industries, right? So, legacy data, technology debt, we hear this in all conversations with the client because everyone is kind of jumping into the bandwagon of creating AI models and how do I gain the benefits and the efficiency out of it, right? But the
Correct.
underlying problem will be there because AI is not just about the algorithm part of it. AI, to make it efficient and to get the outcome, customer aligned outcome, you have to look into the entire ecosystem, like you rightly pointed out. So it is about the data, it is about the design, and it is about the entire compliance aspect of it. Unless you are able to bring in all of these three together, and that's not just a one day or a fortnight journey. It is not just a project of a couple of months. It's a continuous journey, I would say, and we will gradually move past each and every step. So how do you remove the technical debt in your legacy systems? We know that right now, if I look at the systems, look at the concerns that most of the companies are having is not just this technical debt. There is also an issue that, particularly for mainframe systems, that the mainframe
True.
coders are actually aging, right? And there is a dearth of people who know the code, the actual functionality, and which is where there is a risk of how do you remove that from the legacy systems and bring into the modern platforms. So it will be this is a discussion that will not end in 2 minutes, right? It's a continuous
Absolutely.
process, and definitely the AI can help in understanding those legacy systems and then transforming those legacy systems gradually, removing the technical debt part of it, and also refining the data as we go forward so that we are able to bring in more insightful, outcomes from the data.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. And which is why I think, there's a lot of excitement around the POCs that is happening, right? Which are
Right,
very successful. But when you
right.
actually take it to the next level, I think, the actual hurdles are being faced by the organizations. Very true.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Very true.
Thank you so much, Sunanda.
Yeah, Binayak, I see you have a question again.
Yeah. So since this is the last question, I'll try to make this question as interesting as possible, like the sweet dish that comes after a good meal. So the point is, like this is somebody who was searching for insurance for himself, health insurance. So since we are engineers and we try to solve the world's problem, so the question eventually rises, like as AI-driven underwriting becomes increasingly precise, and insurers may eventually predict individual risk and with this especially with the accuracy rising high, that high risk or vulnerable people, like individuals, could face unaffordable premiums, right, in situations, or effective exclusion from the coverage itself, right, in the paradigm. So at
Mm-hmm.
this point, how is the industry balancing the actuarial precision and profitability with the original purpose of insurance, like protecting those who need it the most?
Correct, correct. You are very true in your observation, and we already see that happening, right? So, if you look at some of the situations which were in the news, right, we are all aware of the devastation that had happened during the natural calamities in California and US, right?
Right,
And
the
post
first
that,
part.
what happened is, what happened is many of the insurers actually stepped back. They said that we are not going to provide coverage in these areas, right?
Mhm.
Similar thing happened in Australia, where, because of the massive flood and everything, insurers started kind of withdrawing the policies and coverages in certain areas, right? So, and this is where I'm talking about just from the calamities perspective, but of course, it has a much wider impact as well from different situations of disability, health insurance, and things like that, right? So where people can get marginalized and
Mm,
under coverage or no coverage at all will be a problem, right? So, and
mm,
this is where the regulatory bodies will step in. Of course, there are insurance regulatory bodies in all global areas, and a role that is being significantly played out by also insurtechs. Okay, because there are insurtech companies who are bringing in different types of ideas in the mix. And the traditional insurers are actually partnering with them to
mhm.
bring in these ideas. I will just give you example. I'm just trying to recall the insurtech company. If I recall correctly, the company name is Besto. Okay.
Okay.
So it's an insurtech company. If you look at their offerings, they have kind of made it a ladderized coverage.
Database,
So
correct.
yes, so it's basically it's a life insurance coverage, and
Mhm.
what they are trying to make here is hyper personalized coverages. So
Mhm.
life insurance traditionally, since you come from an insurance background, you would be able to appreciate what used to happen is you give out a insurance policy and then there is no interaction with the customer, right? But things
Mhm.
are changing. So what Besto has done is they have come up with uh, tailored coverages at different stages of your life. You
Mhm.
are a young professional, you get a life coverage for the initial part. Then you get married, you have kids. Immediately, you will be given a different type of coverage for your kids, for your spouse, and so on and so forth, right? So they are kind of tailoring it different phases of your life till for senior citizens they will have additional coverages. See, you are at a point in life where you need say to buy a house, you need mortgage, so they will actually bring in some mortgage coverage as well. So very interesting things how this entire concept of laddering, which means basically phases, right, is being brought in. There are many such examples, but just in the interest of time, we are already 15 minutes past. But yes, a lot of things is still to be observed, and regulatory bodies will help in keeping the insurers, keeping all of the IT providers who are building these systems in check, so that the ultimate goal still remains the same, right? From insurance standpoint, the
Right.
welfare aspect of insurance should not, be kind of overridden here. That should still, the trust part of it should still be retained as much as it has always been.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much. Um, I know we are overshooting time, but I can't thank you enough, Shunanda, for this, right? Wonderful industry insights, right? And deep domain knowledge, right? So we thank you on behalf of AI Agile Synergy. I'm sure, right, we'll have, right, some future discussions as well. And for others, let's gear up for the, right, next week we are going to have a meetup, right? So let's gear up for that. And please give a, right, thanks to, a round of applause to Sunanda for this wonderful insight. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thanks for inviting me, and happy to, be in touch with
Yeah.
all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye bye.